Hello everybody, what is going on? My name is Steggy, and in this video, I'm going to be teaching you how you can start a YouTube channel for just $100. Now, when I say $100, I mean it, because there are plenty of videos out there with similar titles, and when you click into them, the very first step is own a $900 smartphone, and then everything else are just accessories for that smartphone. And I think that sort of defeats the purpose. Not everybody owns an iPhone X or 11 or a Google Pixel 3 or 4. And so to make that assumption in these videos, I think is not in the spirit of the topic. And so what I'm going to be going over is starting completely from scratch and getting a kit together that you can use to produce YouTube content. Now, this might not work for every type of YouTube channel, but it's pretty flexible, so I think that it should be able to get away with most types of content. So if that's something that interests you, stick around and don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more great videos. So when you're creating a kit for YouTube videos, you really have four types of components. You have the actual video recorder, you have your audio, your lighting, and your mounting. Now, I have to admit, when coming up with this kit, I did find it pretty challenging because normally I like to pick gear that can sort of stick around even as a channel grows, but when you're dealing with just $100, you do have to make some sacrifices. So in this video, I'm going to be also making some suggestions that if you have a little bit more budget to play with, and if you can stretch that dollar a little bit more, you'll be better off in the long run because the equipment will last longer. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So the first part of this setup is, of course, the camera. Now, I was pouring through eBay trying to find the right fit and seeing if I could get an interchangeable camera for this. Unfortunately, with $100, there's not a whole lot you can do. But if you'd like to see me make other versions of this video with $200 budgets or $300 budgets, let me know in the comment section down below, because I think that I can pick some pretty cool stuff in those price points. But with $100, it was a lot more challenging. So, you know, kind of ironically, the camera that I ended up settling on is an iPhone. However, stick with me on this. This is fitting underneath that $100 budget. Let me explain. So if you go on eBay, you can search for plenty of iPhones on there, and you might find some that say they have a bad IMEI. And basically, the bad IMEI means you can't activate this on a cellular network. However, if you don't do that, you could just turn it in airplane mode and you basically have a glorified iPod Touch. Now, this is an iPhone 6S. So this is an iPod Touch with a 4K 30 camera or a 1080p 60 or a 1080p 120 camera on the back, and then a 720p front-facing camera on the front in case you want that front-facing camera. So this is actually a really great value. So if you look this phone up on eBay, you'll find plenty of options that fit within an affordable budget. I'm talking $40, $50, $60, up to $70, depending on the condition that you get it in. So if you're willing to deal with like a small crack, then you'll get like a really good discount on these. The one thing that I would warn you on looking out for is to make sure that the phone is not iCloud locked, because if it's iCloud locked, you won't be able to access anything in it. So it's basically a paperweight. But if you're just going for a bad IMEI phone, then you have an iPod Touch. Now, if you're willing to stretch your dollar a little bit and maybe spend $100 for the phone itself, you can actually get an iPhone 6S for about $100 and it fully works. So if you don't have a smartphone, then that might be a pretty viable option for your first smartphone that you could throw in like a Google Fi SIM card or what have you. But the other thing I would look out for is this is a 16 gig version. I bought this kind of quickly, so I did the buy it now thing, but there are actually 32 gig versions that you can also get for $70. And I would highly recommend that, because if you're shooting in 1080p 60 or 4K 30, the hard drive on these does fill up fast. So if you can get that next step up in storage, I would definitely recommend that. But anyway, like I said, so the iPhone is a fantastic option for a camera because you can shoot up to 4K 30 FPS or 1080p 60 FPS, which is what I recommend for now. But more than that, you can also actually edit on this as well. So let's say you are starting from absolute scratch and you don't even have a computer. If you shoot video on this iPhone, you can download iMovie as an app and you can actually edit your footage together and then upload it to YouTube that way. So using a smartphone as your camera when you're first starting out just has so many different options available. And so what I like about the iPhone 6S is it's the newest phone from Apple that falls within our budget, and it still has a 3.5 millimeter jack. So that means that you can use not only lightning accessories with this that are, audio accessories or lights, whatever, but you can also use the 3.5 jack. And that's what I'm going to be using with the microphone options that I'll be talking about next. So it's really useful that this generation of the iPhone still has that 3.5 jack. And, if you have a 3.5 millimeter microphone that you use with this, you can, of course, get a little 3.5 to lightning adapter that you can use for future iPhones if you decide, oh, I've used this phone for a while. I've decided to upgrade to, an 8, a 10, an 11, whatever down the line. You can still use some of that audio gear for this down the road. Now, if you just don't like iPhone, there is another option. This is a Google Pixel first generation, so you can get these for around $50 on eBay as well. So I'll be showing you a video quality difference between the Pixel and the iPhone. However, if you're asking me, I would definitely suggest the iPhone just because in my testing with the Pixel, I found the autofocus was sometimes a little wonky outside. So if you're like vlogging and everything like that, the backwards facing camera, I did find that the iPhone had better performance, but you're going to spend a little bit more for the iPhone. All right, so moving on into audio, I've got two options for you. Now, one sounds amazing, but it might be a little cumbersome. And I'm referring to this rat's nest of cables, which is the Audio-Technica ATR 3350 lavalier microphone. Now, this is a really long cord, and the reason why is it's not a wireless lav mic like the one I'm using here. So the idea is you run the cord all the way to your camera, and so they want to give you a cable length so you can do that. Now, this thing sounds amazing for the price. I bought this back in 2016 for $21, and I used this for about a year for the Elgato Gaming YouTube videos. Back when we were at like 250,000 to 300,000 subs, something like that. And it worked really great, but then I eventually upgraded to a wireless kit. But I still held on to this because it is such a good piece of equipment for the price. I didn't want to let it go. Now, this type of microphone only works for certain situations. If you're doing like a travel vlog or anything like that, you're not going to want to be tracking this really long cable around. So I have a different option for you, and that is this, which is a Ceramonic 3.5 millimeter bendable microphone. And so this just kind of plugs right into your phone, and then you can just aim it whichever way you want to aim it. And then, it's kind of like a tiny little mini shotgun mic or something like that. It's not hypercardioid or anything like that. It's just going to give you a little boost over the normal internal microphone quality of the iPhone or Pixel, which already sounds pretty good. So this will just give you a little bit of a boost. This one is $25. So you can either do the $21 or the $25 for your microphone. And so those are your different options there. So this one is a lot better for like running and gunning, but this you're going to get better quality just because of the nature of a lav mic. You have it so close that you're not going to have a lot of like room reflections or anything like that appear in your recording. And so I personally recommend this. However, as I was looking up the price of this microphone, I found that it's actually discontinued. If you go to eBay, you can still find these on there, and they're like $10 if you buy them used. So that's a really great value for this microphone. So I highly suggest it. But if you want something that's a little bit more flexible for the types of videos you'll be creating, this one works great as well. And I'm going to do an audio test of both of these so you can hear what that sounds like. So basically where we're at in this setup is you have about $60 for the iPhone here, or like $70 if you're going for the 32 gig, or $100 if you're going for an iPhone that doesn't have a bad IMEI, if you want just like a real smartphone, which some people might want out there. And then you have about $20 or $10 to $20 here. And so we're left with about $10 to $20 left in our budget. And so I want to move on to mounting first. And that brings me to this guy. So this is a Selfie Stick K07. The name is kind of inconsequential. And this is exactly what it sounds like. It's a selfie stick. So it has a little vice grip here that you can stick your iPhone onto. And so if you're travel vlogging, you can hold the phone out like that so you can catch more of your surrounding, which is really nice for vloggers. However, the other reason why I really like this selfie stick is because it's also a tripod. And so if you're traveling or even if you're at home, you can basically set this selfie stick on a table, a chair, a Sterilite bin, a stack of books, and basically get it up to the height that you need, because this extends and you can obviously adjust the custom height of what you want this to be. So this is basically your tripod, whether you're at your house or you're on the go. And this guy only costs, I think, $8.99. So this was extremely affordable. However, I will say the build quality is not that great on this. I mean, like, it's not, you know, I don't think it's going to fall apart, but it's just like the actual like tripod part is kind of flimsy in my opinion. And so if you're willing to stretch your budget a little bit, I would recommend going for this version, which is from a company called Benro. And this is about $20 to $30, depending on if you get it on sale. And it's the same concept. It comes with a little smartphone clip thing too. But what's nice about this is the smartphone attachment is not like glued onto it. Like, this only does a smartphone. So if you ever graduate to like a point and shoot, like a Sony RX100 or something like that, you could still use this for that. And this is just like a little bit more solid. So I actually use this myself because I love these that much. So I think I paid $30 back when I got it, because as soon as I saw it, I'm like, this is genius. And so when I was, you know, looking for a kit for this video, I was trying to find this as cheap as possible. And this is what I ended up coming with. So if you are on that budget, if we want to stick under that $100 price point, this is what you want to go with. If you have a little bit of flexibility and you want something that can stay around a little longer, you'd want to go with the Benro. So with everything here, we're just under our $100 budget. But you might be asking, what happened to lighting? Well, the thing is, you can get lighting for absolutely free. So my number one piece of advice is find a window in your house, set up your selfie stick in front of it, and use that as your light source. Because I couldn't tell you how much money photographers and videographers spend on lighting just to replicate naturally occurring daylight. Now, being able to shoot in daylight is a luxury. So I actually found that issue a lot when I was shooting at the Elgato offices in San Francisco, because everybody was always making noise when it was during office hours. And so I would wait until people would leave before I could start shooting in silence. And so I only had about like an hour to film all of my A-roll, because the sun would set shortly after that. And so for a lot of the Elgato gaming videos, I was just using normal daylight because it looked so good and so soft. But it was a challenge to basically schedule my shooting around that short window that I had. If you have a 9 to 5, or if you're a student, you might be able to shoot on the weekends, which is totally a possibility. But if you're also shooting at home and you want to shoot in the evening, there's nothing that says you can't use a lamp as your light source. If you actually have a way to direct your lamp, or if you have a way to make the light really bright and you aim it towards your wall, you can do what's called bounce lighting, which sort of the light reflects off the wall and back to you. You could use foam core to assist with that. And, you know, there are a couple of DIY ways that you could use to have artificial light look better. But the best is free. And so if you have that ability to shoot in the daytime, that's what I would suggest. If none of those are an option and you absolutely need a light, I'll link a softbox down below, which is $25, which works pretty good. So, you know, basically if you have to take something away, I would probably just take away the microphone if you want to stay within that budget, because it's about the same price, because the internal microphone on the iPhone is honestly good. So if you are shooting indoors, and you're kind of in an enclosed space and you can kind of keep it quiet around you, you can get away with just the internal microphone here and then spend that $25 on a softbox instead of the microphone. And then all in, you're still under that $100 budget. So basically you just have to ask yourself what you value more there. But if it was me personally, I'll still use natural daylight to this day because it looks so beautiful. So that's my suggestion. So without further ado, let me show you a video and audio sample of the iPhone 6s and the Google Pixel with this setup in front of the window in my office during daytime, so you can see what your videos can look like with this $100 setup. All right, so this is a sample of the iPhone 6s with the Saramonic 3.5mm microphone. The iPhone 6s is set to 1080p 60 FPS, so you should notice some pretty smooth frame rate here. And as far as the only lighting I'm using, it's the window behind the camera, so there are no other lights on in this room. Now, the only issue about this setup is seeing my framing and making sure I'm not like all the way over here. So I actually have a small mirror set up behind the camera so I can see like, okay, now I'm a little bit more centered, or maybe I want to be a little bit off center here, and I can check that just using a $2 mirror. All right, and so this is another test of the iPhone 6s. This time the back camera is set to 4K 30, so you should start to notice it looking a little bit sharper than the last clip. But let me know, do you like this clip better, or do you like the 1080p 60 clip better? All right, so now this is a test of the iPhone 6s's front-facing camera. So this camera is only 720p, so it's a little lower resolution than the back camera, but it's still perfectly usable. I mean, especially because right now I can actually see my framing perfectly. I don't need to use the mirror or anything. I can tell I'm in the center of my frame. I can look right at the lens, and then everything can be great. So that's the front-facing camera. And then for the microphone, I've switched over to the Audio-Technica ATR 3350 lavalier microphone. So this should sound a lot better than the Saramonic because the microphone is a lot closer to me, so there should be less, echo just from reflections in the room. So yeah, and again, I'm just using the window for my light source, so there's no other lights on in this room except for, I guess, the monitors behind me. But yeah, here's the Audio-Technica, little tap there, and then yeah, the front-facing camera. All right, so this is the last test of the iPhone 6s, and I've actually switched over to the selfie stick so you can get an idea of how everything looks around if you're walking around doing a vlog and you're shaking things up a little bit, and so you can see what like sort of the natural kind of stabilization is using this phone with a selfie stick. And then this is also an audio test of the iPhone's built-in microphone. So this is the front-facing camera. Again, it's 720p. On the selfie stick, just with a window behind the camera and the built-in microphone. So let me know what you guys think. All right, and now this is the Google Pixel first generation backwards facing camera that's now set to 4K 30 FPS. And then this is the built-in microphone of the Pixel. I've already tested the Saramonic and the Audio-Technica mic with the iPhone, so that'll sound the same. So this is just the built-in microphone on the backwards facing camera in 4K 30. So let's see what 1080 60 looks like on here. Okay, and this is the Google Pixel first generation back camera set to 1080p 60, so you should notice some smoother movement as I move my hands here, and so this is what you can expect if you're using the Pixel first gen. Again, just the window behind the camera is lighting this entire room right now, so that's what it looks like. All right, and so this is the front-facing camera of the Google Pixel first generation, and so this is on the selfie stick right now, so again, a little shaky test. But no, so like this is what it can look like as you're like naturally holding it, and there's some bounce, there's some movement, because it's not a locked off shot, and so this is what you can expect. And again, it's the built-in microphone as well with this phone. And what's actually cool, what I saw with the Pixel, is that you can actually turn on a selfie illumination mode, so that'll actually boost the brightness up a little bit more when you're taking your video, which I thought was a cool little touch. So for low light situations, that could be really handy. So this is what it's like with that on. So the lighting hasn't changed at all. I've just simply turned on the selfie illumination feature on the front-facing camera. And so there you have it, a $100 YouTube setup from scratch. You can shoot up to 4K 30 video, you can edit it directly on the iPhone, and then you could upload straight to YouTube. So I think that's kind of a neat thing, because I guess there is a little bit of an underlying assumption that you would have a computer that you can cut together your footage. However, if you don't, you're still covered by iMovie, the iOS app on here, and I'm sure there's an Android equivalent as well. So that's the kind of quality that you could expect. And so as your channel grows, you can still use some of the gear. So like I said, I was using the Audio-Technica lav mic, a $20 microphone, for a channel that had 300,000 subs and was getting thousands of views a video, and I still found this satisfactory enough to use in those videos. The same as the natural daylight that I was using in those videos. So even if you find that you upgrade your camera over time, you'll find that these other components that you buy can still fit in those new setups. And as you kind of pick new gear, I would just keep that in mind too. And so I hope you enjoyed this real $100 YouTube setup. Again, I have everything linked in the description panel if you want to check out the products. Be sure to let me know if you use any of this gear and let everybody know your thoughts, because that would be super helpful. And let me know if you'd like me to do this type of video for a $200 budget or a $300 budget, because once you get into that territory, you can start talking more about softboxes and interchangeable cameras and what's the best thing to do for that. And so I think we could have some fun there. So let me know if you'd like to see that, and I'll get to working on it. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and get subscribed for more great content. But until my next video, my name is Steggy, and I'll catch you guys later.